Hello, everybody. This is Keisha. I am one half of the host of the Regal Mindset Podcast show. Jay, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I am Joy, the coach. I am the other half of the Regal Mindset Show, and we can't wait to engage with you tonight.
For sure, for sure. So if you are watching us live, just know and understand it is not Friday.
Right.
We had to make some adjustments to our schedule because why? Life happens, and that's okay. We're able to adjust, and I can appreciate and respect that mutually. But tonight we're going to talk about being in the thick of our mess.
Yes.
No pun
Oh my
intended.
God. Well, maybe so.
Yeah,
Maybe so.
well, we'll talk about it. So,
Right.
uh, to give some backstory behind the subject or the conversation, sometimes we find ourselves right. We're all adults,
Hmm.
and we find ourselves in a pickle. We'll say that, and we're not sure one how we got here,
Hmm.
what's going on, and how we get out.
Right. Right.
Right, but I mean that could really go for a lot of different kind of things. That could go for where we are mentally and our mental
Hmm.
capacity, what we're dealing with. That can go for our finances, right? Sometimes you
Right.
find yourself overextended. That can go in our relationships, whether it's with a coworker or whether it's with your significant other. It can really cover quite a few things, right? It can also
Hmm.
go for your spiritual journey, right? Because
Right.
sometimes being some stuff, and the first person you call, I know me. I know me. God, what in the world did I
Right.
do?
We got to figure out what's going on for real.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it's something that we all deal with, right? It's a
Hmm.
part of life, right? What's your first thoughts about when you find yourself in those situations?
You know, before I used to panic,
Okay.
and because I had, of course, unhealed situations, I always analyze myself, and I'm like, what did I do? What went?
Yeah.
And then some I had to own that it was me,
Okay.
and some I had to own that it wasn't me, right?
Yeah.
And so I just now I take a different approach to when situations happen because um I do believe that you plant seeds and it takes seeds some time to grow. And if you're truly in tune with yourself, you'll recall what happened to cause this reaction.
Yeah.
Everything in life has a cause and effect. And then you'll know how to deal with it. It's like, okay, moving forward, I know I need to make this change. Or no, I can't own this one because that was not mine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what about you?
So I would agree with that, and I would also say or add to that. I'm gonna go on Facebook and make sure I'm saving or streaming it live also. But I would say that a lot of times, like you, I would ask myself, what or how did I contribute
Hmm.
to this problem? But also in that is that uh peeling back that onion, right? And
Right.
figuring out, okay, how much of this is mine's? How
Hmm.
much does this belong to someone else? And they're deflecting their portion onto me or pouring their portion onto my plate. And
Right.
how much of this what is this that I'm supposed to learn from this? Because what I don't want to happen, and sometimes it does, is for things to continue to repeat themselves, right?
Right.
So we'll
Right.
find ourselves, okay, man, I was here last year. I must not have learned the lesson that was required in order for me to, be in a better place or a more healthy
Mhm.
space or more financially freeless space, or mentally, I didn't learn whatever that lesson was that was supposed to teach me.
Right.
So that's my thought process, and I kind of work myself back from there
Okay.
to figure out how to solve it and what needs to happen in order to make sure that history does not repeat itself.
And I think that's the big part about it is that we fail to acknowledge the situation in order to create that thought, that ideal of history does repeat itself. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like you have to be open, you have to be honest, you have to be, everything that is needful to make the correction. If not, you're going to do it again. You're
Yeah.
going to mess up again. You're going to, you know, it could be a lot. If you don't is what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing
Yep. Expecting a
twice, yeah,
different result.
expecting a different response. You
Yeah.
have to make a change. And when you acknowledge, like today, I was in the store and I'm not gonna lie, this lady really made me mad. And I responded to her very, very angrily.
Yeah.
Now, granted, do I want to take it back? No, because I meant what I said. But it was just like I was in a moment and I didn't catch myself. And I'm like, you know what, Joy, you probably could have not, you could have just probably ignored what she said. But I didn't. And if that situation come up again, which I'm pretty sure it will, I will have to, you know, deal with it. And just so be it.
Yeah. No, I would agree. But I want what I want people to walk away with from this conversation is knowing that it's okay that those things happen, right? Because that's a part of what makes us or pushes us to grow, right? We
Mhm.
need those things to happen. But the important things out of that is, for me, I think, is what's the lesson, right?
Right,
And ownership, and how do we stop or prevent it from happening again going
right.
forward? Right. So those are three things that we're going to discuss throughout tonight's conversation in
Mhm.
terms of making sure that we're living a more enriched life, a more value added, and that we get something out of this, because we only get one time. We only get one go at this thing called life.
Right,
And we've
right.
got to figure it out. We have to figure it out, and we've got to get it right.
And I'm
The
ready to
right
get it
part is
right.
subjective.
Right, right. But and again, like you said, it's subjective because every man is right in his own eyes.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
just have to
absolutely.
do what works for you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, at some point we learn those lessons and we
Mhm.
can impart those onto other people, right? Because
Right,
they're gonna go through the same, well, not the same, somewhat the same, right? And we can impart our wisdom onto them or into them, which is also a part of life, right? There's things that have
right,
been passed along to me that I learned from and didn't necessarily have to go through because I saw or heard someone else's experience, right? And that's
right,
also just as valuable, I would say,
right, right.
right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what's those good points though, so we can start helping the people?
Yeah, yeah. So, one, identifying what the current mess is, right? So, say for
Mhm.
example, when I'll give a great example, right? When we had this new administration to take over, right? 47, right?
Mhm.
We was all shuffled. Well, I should say all. A lot of people
Right.
was shuffled. They didn't know what to do, and when he had that little pen and that pen moving,
I mean, day one, while we were asleep, that pen was going.
we had to one assess what the problem is. The problem is not necessarily me,
Right.
although it is affecting me in a very real way. I'm a federal employee, and
Mhm.
there, if I'm being honest, have been times where we're stressed beyond necessary, having to wonder or figure out whether or not Monday, when it arrives, if we're going to have a job,
Right.
if we're going to be able to sustain the same lifestyle that we've had for the last year, last 6 months, last month, right?
Right.
And that nothing's changes. And I have close friends who are in that situation right now today. They have been put in a position where they've lost their job due to the current administrations and the changes that they've made based on what they consider to be fraud or waste.
Right. Right.
Now,
Oh my God.
that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, yeah. Because who determines fraud or waste?
First of all, if you're gonna say that, then let's see. I'm waiting to see the proof.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can't just because you say a thing don't mean that thing is true.
Well, he's going now, so
Well, yeah, the other vice president.
and they've been arguing back and forth on Twitter
Oh,
for two
yeah.
days. Yeah.
Well, they just broke up, so that's how it
Yeah,
happens when you
it's
break up
hard.
with your
It's hard.
boyfriend.
Right. It's hard.
But yeah, so we can identify that, right? And so what part of that ownership belongs to us, if any, right?
Right.
So for me, I would answer that in saying that could I have done more in terms of educating people around me in terms of the importance and the value of voting?
Hmm.
Can I have done any more than I already did? Also subjective, right?
Yeah. Right.
What else could I have done that's outside me personally? I don't know. What I do know is, like you said, we will be okay.
Yeah.
We will
You're
be okay.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. On the other side of this 3.5 years now from now and some change, we will be okay, right? Are there a lot of lessons to learn within this part of this season? Absolutely. I
Right.
want to capitalize that. There's lots of lessons that we could learn
Right.
from being in this position right now, right? And then how do we prevent it from going forward?
Hmm.
Sometimes we need lessons like this to understand. Listen, we already know what it's like when we have, you know, homeboy or these type folks where they at. We already know what that's like. Do we want to revisit that? That's enough for me to be like, nah, I'm cool. Let's look what we got. What we got? Who else we got? You know what I'm
Right. And um me personally, I don't like the situation, but I really feel that it was needful
Yeah. Okay.
because the United States does not come together until they're separated, if that makes sense. It took 9/11 to make everybody want to be friendly for those couple of years, right?
Yeah.
It takes a major situation to happen to make us appreciate and deal. And let me pause real quick. For some reason, I can't get mine to go live on Facebook.
Yeah. Me neither. It keeps.
It's blocking. It's saying only me.
Yeah. Me too. I don't know. Maybe because it was previously scheduled for a different time, but I'm getting the same error. But normally afterwards, I can, and I'll just have to reshare it on my page or
Okay.
whatever. But yeah, I'm getting the same error. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was just me and I was trying to fix it. And I'm like, but we needed this. And I stand by that because nobody knows what it is to be black in America until it happens to you. You need
Hmm.
that same experience. And they're getting the experience to be removed from school, to be not as allowed in school because you were categorized, to have to show papers just to walk, to you're feeling it. And we're okay with that. You know what it feels like to be belittled just because you exist. Now you know what it feels like. And I think they need a little bit more because you can spank a child. I don't mean they learned their lesson.
True.
They need to feel it. And like today, they went and got some people in Baltimore. And they
Mm.
got some people over in Nantucket. They literally was live streaming when they went up to some employer, and all you seen was everybody running, all Hispanic people running and jumping in cars and running down the street. And again, I'm not here for an eye because right is right, wrong is wrong. But you will never know how to truly say you're sorry until you felt it. Because I can just say all day, I'm sorry it happened to you. I'm sorry you feel that way. No, you needed to feel it so that you understand why you don't want it to happen anymore.
Yeah.
That's one. Two, the damage that they're doing when the new administration come in and have to click, because it's going to take them almost 12 years to fix it.
Yeah.
Because everything he's putting in place is going to bleed over into the next administration. So what it's going to take at least two administrations to fix this. And it's going to make you appreciate who's in place. Thirdly, who's in place? You're seeing their true colors. Like that the lady, the Republican representative that got on there and she pretty much voted to cut all Medicaid and assistance in her district. And they said, what do you want us to do? Die? And her response was, well, we're all going to die. And then her apology was, well, I'm sorry that I didn't feel like I had to explain the tooth fairy. That was one of her statements.
Oh,
And then the second part was, I would like to offer you my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who can pardon your sins so that when you die, you're going to be with him, but in eternal life. That was the coldest response I've heard in a minute. But you now see this white on white crime. That's
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm.
You see where the problem lies. And I hope, and hopefully when people vote, they vote with seriousness, because we typically only pay attention to the president. We don't pay attention to the people that we're putting into those other decision making levels.
Yeah. And local level too.
Exactly. We don't pay attention. We just go for whoever. We don't even look at who's running. We just vote. And or we don't even flip the paper over and see who's on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's like, at the end of the day, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, they're all the same. We have to own our responsibility. And we did what we were supposed to do. And I'm commenting on that part when you said, should I have, reached out to more people and asked them to vote and stuff like that? You did what you were supposed to do. You can't make a person hear. It's like when you take a horse to water, you can't make them drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, other than existing, we can do any more. And it's about to get worse because, the breakup between Musk and Trump is hard.
Yeah.
He done brought up the Epstein files. This man has seen everything.
Yeah.
And
Our
you
stuff
don't
too.
think that he's prepared himself? Like, he would be dumb not to prepare himself.
Yeah.
I would not be in any type of position to where I don't keep at least 14 or 15 secrets in my pocket. Because when you
Receipts.
pull a card, well, I'm coming with that high joker. What? I don't care if you had a little ace of clubs. I don't care. I just hit it.
Yeah. You got
Like,
to.
you got to.
Yeah.
And this is about to get funny, but the mess that we're in the thick of it, right? But we've done what we can do. The only thing we can do is navigate through it. How can we prepare to come out of it? Now
Yeah.
we're going to have to prepare for recovery.
Yeah.
And what does that look like?
Yeah.
If you lose your job,
Yeah.
maybe, and again, I lost my job multiple times from 2020. When COVID hit, I was a COVID reduction of force.
Mm.
Up until 2024, I have lost multiple jobs
Yeah.
for one reason or the next, whether the business slowed down, whether it could have been my fault. I'll to own mine, but I'm gonna sue you either way it go. But so how do you have to get into the mindset of like, do I need to even be here? Because if you're a creative person like you,
Mm-hmm.
you have to say, okay, maybe I was giving that job too much of my time.
Right.
Maybe I needed this wake up in order to really invest in myself,
Mm-hmm.
see that I'm the greatest commodity, and put my product, put my name, put my brand out there. And yes, it's slow, it trickles. However, it gains momentum
Mm-hmm.
because the skill set that you've learned from the military, the skill set you've learned on this job, you can then help somebody who don't know how to deal with those things navigate, and then they pay you for it
Mm-hmm.
because you've literally given them something they need.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at it, that cup half empty, half full type situation,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
in the thick of it. What do you do from here? Black people we know how to navigate.
Yeah. I will say that.
We're gonna
I
sell
will say that.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if it's
And
your house, we're gonna sell it.
okay, listen, I 100% agree with everything that you said. I didn't necessarily look at it from the perspective of that we need this, but I agree with you. I agree that yes, we needed a harsh reminder or a harsh
Hmm.
wake up call, right?
Hmm.
In terms of that pendulum swings.
Oh,
We thought we had it
right.
great when President Obama was in office. Well, guess what? It swung so far past. We on the other side.
But the whole thing, he was so busy cleaning up. And
But yeah,
I'm not saying he was there to make all black people
right.
problems go
I agree.
away. Because I don't agree that he
Right.
was there to do that. However, he still had a lot of cleanup
Yeah. Yeah.
that he had to do.
Yeah.
And so you putting that weight on the next person's shoulder. So even if our next president is Kamala,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, she got to clean up everything that Trump did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then we're going to be looking at her like, okay, why you haven't done this? Okay, well, you should have had me in it in the beginning. We wouldn't have had this problem.
Listen, say that again. But you know who else is? I'm a big cheerleader of hers. Jasmine Crockett, man.
Man, she
Listen,
gets all my vote.
okay, listen.
She could be the
She ain't
president tomorrow.
playing. She ain't playing with these cats. Listen,
She gonna
listen.
cuss
I
them out
know
and keep it moving.
they hate to see her come in,
I love it.
and I love it.
I am here for it. Every time she opened up her mouth, when she got into the
Woo!
argument today with that lady, she kept talking. They talking, you haven't been recognized. Okay. Like, see, she a Capricorn. She must be a Capricorn because I just want to punch her in her face because she's too smart at the mouth.
Okay,
She
and
got to
back
be
it up with
something I
some
don't like.
education.
But I love it.
Yes, and facts.
Right.
Education and facts. They hate it.
Right. But she do need to pick better friends because when she did that interview and had her lace showing, they shouldn't have let that happen because I can't unsee it.
Yeah,
But she's
yeah,
been good since then.
yeah. Well, this brings us to another question, right? Why is it that we find it difficult to ask for help, even though we see things are unraveling around us? Why is it difficult for us to ask for help?
Because it makes us feel weak. And I actually put that down as a thought.
Okay.
And so I'm glad you bring it. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but because we see it as a weakness,
Yeah.
because we're conditioned to have to show them we know what we're doing. When, let's be honest, white people don't. They can give the basic mediocre work. And we're sitting there like, really? But we and mentally and emotionally has established ourselves to have to show them without asking, to show them we know how to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest that is the weakness though, the inability to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I was like that. Like I can't show them that I don't know what I'm doing. Let me
Yeah.
try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
No. Mm-mm. But then we also need to know we also as Black people don't like to get in other people's business either.
True.
Unless it's a little tea, that's something different. But you over there doing you, listen, as long as it don't mess up what I got going on,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
I agree.
and we don't stand up for ourselves to command that level of authority, to where I don't have to prove to you that I know what I'm doing. My work should prove for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any questions, let's discuss where the disconnect came in.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's it. And then it's like we've asked for help in multiple ways, but the other people, the other party, and including white people, Asian people, anything, they don't understand the type of help we need. They think our help is handout.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're asking for. And they treat it as such because if you do go ask a coworker to help you, what do they act like? Well, we studied this last week. I didn't ask you that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever experienced that. They're quick to bring up, well, we had a training 3 months ago. All right. Got it.
Yeah. To some
So,
degree. Yeah. Yeah.
so they make it hard.
I
What do you
think.
think?
No, I agree with what you're saying there. I think that sometimes we do, as a culture or community, think that that's weak. And I will also even go a step further in saying that for me, my experience has always been, I've always felt like I had to overcompensate, right? I had to
Mhm.
overachieve just to be on, I can't even really say a level playing field, right? I'll just say be in the room, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that could be my own insecurities, if that's even what it is, or
But
it
it's
could
a
just be,
fair.
yeah, like I've always had to have more education, have more experience, have more knowledge, have more exposure, have more or longer in this space. It's always had to be that way in order to be relevant or justified in what I'm asking for, whether it's a new position, whether it's to learn something new, whether it's to even if it's a lateral move, right?
Mhm.
Whatever that is, I've always felt like I've had to give more, show more than a counterpart who has, and get this, less.
girl. But
Less.
you're right. I don't think it's single to you. I think everybody, especially those who have degrees,
Yeah.
feel that way because we took the extra effort to get this, and then they moved the goalposts,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm truly feeling that it is associated with. I talked about it earlier today, with proximity
Mm-hmm.
and understanding the power that's in proximity. We were never in spaces, so we felt they painted a picture of this is what you need to be in order to be in this space because we was never in that space. We didn't understand that the bar was down there. So it's lack of proximity. So we, one, as a community, need to create our own spaces
Mm-hmm.
that is equivalent or higher than theirs,
Mm-hmm.
or infiltrate in a way. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, most of the decisions that are made either over bourbon, a cigar, on a golf course,
Socially.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be in those spaces with decisions to hear, even if it's not to be a part of the decision making, because they're making decisions based off of their experience, doesn't include a Black person's experience or an
Absolutely.
Asian person's experience. They're basing off of their experience. Their
Absolutely.
experience would never be anywhere towards ours because
Mm-hmm.
we have a different mindset, even when it comes down to help. Like how people, you know, it was, I can't think of the guy's name, but he did like a little study, and he said he see now why his mom always told him, if you ever get lost, find a Black man.
Mm.
If you
Interesting.
ever need help, go find a Black woman, not your own kind,
Yeah.
because they don't understand our community is not like yours. We got our difficulties. Like we got that
True.
crackhead uncle. We know we do.
We don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
All do.
And
Yeah.
we know that in churches mainly, where the uncle, it's always in them situations where everybody want to get touchy in
Yeah.
those very, very religious households because they want to sweep it up under the rug and
Yeah.
all of that. But on average, we don't do what you do. We're not living in an abandoned house with roaches with no lights and our child can't eat and they're going, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna say, so give me that baby. You can stay here, but give me that child.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't understand that about us, but because they perceive us to be um uncivilized, when in all truthfulness, Africa is the birthplace of civilization,
Yeah.
not just in biologically, but in setup, in structure, in systems. They never had civilization. So that's why they find it a problem with not washing their hands. They find it a problem with not washing their legs. Or you think it's poor to use a wash rag. Okay, all right, that's fine. Because your lineage didn't take baths but once a month. And
Yeah.
that's true fact.
Yeah.
So again, we don't have proximity, and we need to engage in networking in order to have camaraderie with people that actually do and are and in places to help us, that want to see us succeed. We feel, and we have, and I know me personally, I don't feel, I used to not feel, other than today I changed my mind about things, that nobody wanted to help me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would be so dissatisfied on the job because I didn't feel nobody had my best interest.
True.
So then I didn't say anything. I didn't ask for another opportunity. I didn't, right?
Yeah.
So we have to take ownership. Like you said, it's some systematically their fault, but we have to take ownership and network more. I didn't say code switch. I didn't say be their best buddy. Network.
Mm-hmm.
Find out who's in places. Reach out. Hey, do you mentor? I actually sent the CEO of the company I work for a whole breakdown mentor list because she invited us to a tea thing to tell us about her experiences. Again, that's your experiences, but you brought up good points. So why can't you offer that here? And that's pretty much what I told her. I
Yeah.
said, you had people, however you got it, men putting you in places at an early age of right 22-year-old.
Mm,
I can guess. However, you got there.
yeah.
They made you CE. They made you COO in your 20s.
Hmm.
I ain't got that kind of power. So since they made you there and you know the ins and outs of what it takes to be in those spaces, why can't you mentor somebody else to help them say, hey, I want to help you navigate. Where do you want to go? Well, I want to be such and such, such, such. This is what I want to do. Well, you may not achieve that here, but let me help you.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I agree.
So it's two-part. We know it's their fault, but we also don't take the lead in things like that. We don't open our mouth. We don't say nothing. We just get mad.
Yeah. I would agree. I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with someone, whether it is a platonic relationship or
Mhm.
business or professional, and what they say in response to our conversation is, "I had no idea you was this smart. I had no idea that you were
See,
this
that might be
intelligent."
an insult just a little
Okay,
bit.
right. Or they always hit me with this. You articulate so well, and my
See, that
first
would,
thought,
yeah.
what are you? Who are you talking to?
I don't see how you take it. You too professional because I probably would have went off. I ain't gonna lie. I probably would have.
Happens all the time.
Wow.
As if I'm supposed to open my mouth and not be able to complete a sentence or have an engaging, meaningful conversation with you.
Right.
Like
Just
that just blows my mind.
like the director of HR before she left the company, they don't have really never approved anybody for tuition reimbursement. So I guess I was the first one.
Mm,
So I submitted, and she told me, she was like, when I met her in person at the little tea thing, she was like, Joy Young. I said, yes, that's me. And she said, you're getting a doctorate, right? I said, absolutely. She's talking about, that's impressive. And I had to catch myself. But she about to be all kind of bees. And I thought about, okay,
okay,
oh,
come
let's
with
sugar
it.
that because I might need some more money. I said, thank you. But then she stared at me the entire time. And I'm like, so
It was some more to that. She
yeah,
wanted.
say it.
She
Let's
was
go and put
scared.
it out.
Yeah,
Do you want to ask me what I'm gonna do with it? Like what? What?
yeah,
And but they don't see that as microaggression. And then when we bring it up, we're oversensitive. Hmm. Okay. How does that work?
yeah,
But we can't sweep it on the rug. You have to call it for what it is.
yeah.
So it's not that I couldn't articulate. We just haven't had you haven't had a meaningful conversation that we can engage in.
Okay,
I just
that
hit you
part.
right back in your throat.
That part.
And then look at them.
Woo. Yeah, that's pretty. That's a pretty good one. Um, I would say that when those things happen, that is a great way to respond and answer that. But it's also again an opportunity for us to teach people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I even tell my 6-year-old granddaughter, I said, you can still teach people, even though they're bigger than you or they're adults or teenagers or whomever. You can still teach people things. You can teach people how to treat you, right?
Right.
And so when you speak to me in a manner in which you feel like you feel as though you've already concluded that I have no education, I have no language, I can't complete a
Mm-hmm.
good thought. I cannot convey a thought to you that would make sense. Then that's your opportunity to show them. And when they have their mouth open, you just ask them simply, what is it? What else can I help you with? Or how
Right.
is it that I can be of service or whatever. But yeah, I think that's a great way to handle that.
Yeah.
That's
I'm like, what else can I do to make your day better?
and you know
Because
what? It shouldn't have to be that way, but
mm-mm,
it
we
happens.
shouldn't have to wear the scarlet letter degree on our shirt for you to know what we bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
But if we don't change their vision or change, what's I said? Changing their vision by changing our image.
Yeah.
But I think that's it because I always get them mixed up. Either way
Yeah.
it go. The whole point is, it's like I present myself, but I can change the image
Hmm.
and you
Which
can
will
change your
change their
vision.
perspective. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's only so much that I can do, because if you don't want to wipe the sleep out your eye, then I don't need to. Then I'm learning that you're not a task for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not a task for me,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Let's move on, because I'm not going to win. You're not going to win, and I don't want to choke you out. So
Yeah. Well, and again, that's when we're in the midst of being in that kind of a mess, we don't necessarily, that's not the first thought that comes up, right? The first thought probably initially is anger and frustration, right? But
mhm.
once we get past that and realize that we have the equipment and the ability to correct someone's behavior, we can do so.
Right.
That brings me to my next point. Why is it that we wear sort of perfection on our sleeves, kind of like a badge, even in the midst of, let's say, a real struggle, right? Even that scenario that you brought up, and talking to the HR rep. Um, a lot of times I feel like we do, to some degree, wear or walk around with this, I don't want to say arrogance, but with the attitude and the confidence, rightfully so. But when we're challenged, sometimes people, are back down or deflate themselves in a way. And we don't necessarily have to. It's not our problem, it's their problem. They don't she didn't understand why you wanted a doctorate degree.
Mhm.
And it could be very well because she don't see that for herself. It has nothing to do with
You
you.
just answered it. You
Exactly.
literally just answered it.
Yeah. That happens all the time.
Right. Just because it's something you didn't want doesn't mean that it's not obtainable,
Yep.
that is not meant for somebody else.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
is so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. Couldn't
Absolutely.
see it for herself.
Yeah. But sometimes I think as a culture and again a community, we wear, that those kinds of badges, right? And in some parts or in some ways we have to, because again they already assume that we're not equipped or of
Mhm.
value to their corporation or to their industry, perhaps, or to their company, or even in their on their team, right? They don't look at us as necessarily a value added asset. But when we show up in those spaces and we overdo or overperform, they still don't want to justify being able to say, okay, you know what? This is how we're going to reward you. This is how we're going to compensate you for what it is that you do bring.
Right. But
They don't want to have those conversations.
they don't want to have a conversation, because to them, it still wasn't enough. So you have to act your wage.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation multiple times. If I come in and I accept an offer and it's lower than what I normally would accept, and
Hmm.
I took it, I also make it very plain. You're only getting a certain part of me. So don't ask or expect Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Don't
Okay.
expect that master's degree. You're going to get the basic. Tell me what you want me to do. All right. I'm not taking the lead. I'm not initiating. I'm not giving you that energy.
Yeah.
But then, in the same sense, you just said it and we're not dogs. So then we have to, if we don't change our own mindset towards ourselves, and wait for them to recognize and reward. That's what you do to a dog. When you come in the house, they want you to recognize them. They jumping up, jumping up. When they do something, they want that
Treat.
good boy. They want that treat. So with that being said, we're not dogs, and that's what they're used to.
Mm.
Even from the slavery days, where I let y'all go to church on Sunday. Once y'all don't work, sit. Thank you, Master. No, absolutely. No, I'm doing what I want to.
Yeah.
And so we have to push that out of us, because even growing up, even though we may not have been in slavery, we was enslaved in our minds, because our parents wasn't free.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
They passed on what kept them safe and not realize I'm a different person. So you should just train me in the way I should go, not based off of your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair. it would be unfair for me to keep my daughter from my family just because I had a bad experience. No, I just
Mm,
need to be there. Now, it's just certain things I'm not going to do. She can't go play off by herself. I
yeah,
need to be able to see when in the room, closing the door. That just ain't happening.
right.
And older, little older cousin, nope. She sit here. You can't take her to the bathroom. All of that. But if we're in an open field and everybody playing, and I can see that, I'm not going to take her away because of I remember what happened to me when we was playing.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
You just do something different.
Yeah.
But I think, but how? How can we change that mindset in us? Because that is hereditary.
Mm-hmm.
That is a hereditary defect to not realize, because we call it audacity when a white person do it because they got this such pride about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But we are told to be humble. And you know, I hate that word
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
passion.
No.
Why am I bringing myself low on purpose?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but we're told to be humble if we think too highly of ourselves. And then it be your own people telling you, you better humble yourself. Why? I remember I had somebody tell me one time, you might want to stop giving your daughter all that stuff because, you know, I used to give my kid that and then I lost my job. I said, well, I'm not you. And that was under the influence of tequila. I said, I'm not you. What I choose to do with my child and how I continue the lifestyle that I brought her in, I'm not giving her something new. I'm giving her what I already was doing.
Yeah.
And if I lose a job, she's still gonna get it. I don't care if I got to stay $5 to take her to the Dollar Tree. She's not gonna know that there was a lack.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then two, she's the only one. You had 15. That
Yeah.
you kept going. I got
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so passing that mindset. So I'm asking, how can we help somebody to change that internal conversation of humbleness that we don't need?
I can't necessarily say that we don't need it. And the perfect example that comes to mind for me is Deion Sanders and his sons,
Mhm.
and how they just went through the NFL draft and they thought that they were going to go first, second round, and they didn't go until like the 100 and whatever number. And Shador and Shiloh both are, I think one is not necessarily on a team, but like a backup or whatever their positions are.
Mhm.
My point in saying that is the level of confidence that they had prior going into the draft, and then how things ended up. They still have that level of confidence,
I
right?
love
They
that.
know what it is they can do, what it is they can bring to an organization, and they are confident in that. And that's scared, in my opinion, a lot of the coaches in the NFL. It scared them, and they
You
didn't
so right.
adjust.
And I don't even watch football, but I saw that and I'm like,
Okay,
that makes them afraid because we can't let these niggas come in here. And that's just pretty much it. We can't let these little chocolate chips come in here ruin
yeah,
our batter.
yeah,
Because if at the end of the day, all industries are controlled by two groups, whites and Jews.
mm-hmm.
Music, TV, across the board. We can even though Oprah got her own network, there's still somebody providing a signal to that
Yeah,
network. So
yeah,
with that being said, those are the two primary groups that is running every industry.
yeah,
Kanye wasn't wrong on that. And they had to show them. So they made the way when they could have did right by them the first
mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that they didn't break the law. Why?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know who I am.
right.
I know what I'm
So
going to do.
exactly. So I don't know that that's a behavior that we have to alter or change. I think that that belongs to somebody else, right? If we know that about ourselves and we live comfortably and confident in that, I don't know that that needs to change. What I will
Mhm.
say is, we have to we have to back that up, right? So I strongly feel like both of those young men, not just because of their father. I mean, he imported part of that, and he poured that
Mhm.
into them, right? And that's what he's supposed to do, right? He did his
Right.
job. I will say that they are going to definitely show up and show out within the NFL and prove why they're going to be going after the big bucks or why they're going
Exactly.
to get the big bucks.
just
the, the disadvantage in that is that they had to go through this process, or maybe it was necessary. I don't know, but it's unfortunate that they did have to go through this part of the process just to have to show and prove, because everybody else didn't have to do that.
Didn't and got more money.
Okay.
Them Brady's didn't have to do all of that.
Yeah.
What's the other two brothers?
Manning.
They didn't have to do it. None of
Yeah.
it. Even the one that was the real big linebacker quarterback on the Pittsburgh Steelers, when he had sexual assault charges, and then he played every game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we know in our court system, they'll look at a white boy who knowingly did it and say he got a life ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look at a black boy did something less and say he ain't going nowhere. He might as well go over there.
Mm-hmm. And they will turn their heads on the
as if, exactly. But
Yeah.
even when you brought up them, let's remember the movie, was it Richard with Venus and Serena?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when he had to check that reporter, when he said she already answered you and said with confidence, you ain't gonna keep interrogating her to make her feel any other way.
Yeah.
And that's that additional microaggression. They want to sit there and make you question. No, I said what I said.
Yeah.
And then it triggers us, and then that's when they get punched in their face. So,
and
that's typically what happened. You like, okay, I had enough. You seen the one with that girl who punched that reporter in the face, the black girl? It was another black reporter, but you could tell she likes her white side more than her black side. She kept antagonizing her. Next thing you know, that girl from New York, pop, 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 pop. I say, dang. It was so that them hands was so quick that you missed. You had to keep replaying and say, oh, it was 3. She wasn't an octopus. It was only 3. She gave that girl everything, and she gave her everything.
Listen, sometimes that's necessary. You know what I'm saying?
Because people need to understand. Your words is going. I'm tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing it. Like this is the only way you're gonna get shut up.
Well, listen, has there for you, right? Has there ever been an experience where growth came directly from what you would consider one of the most painful parts of a mess that you found yourself in?
Yes, but I didn't recognize it until like now.
Yeah, till after.
Because you're dealing with the emotions of it. You're dealing with the shock of it. You're dealing with the anger, the frustration. You're going through a whole grieving process. But then when you get older, you're like, you know what? Got it. Okay, I see why.
Yeah.
Right now, and my issue, I can disassociate in a second. You can go from everything in my life to who? Oh shoot, I forgot they existed. Like literally.
Yeah.
I can literally remove you out of my memory. So then, but I use that in certain situations as a defense mechanism.
Okay.
And because I'm good at that, I had to check myself to say, okay, and my therapist helped me with that. It's okay to feel it. Because my job is never to feel that again. So I'm going to throw it away, build up a plan of action, a risk management plan on how we're not going to do with that again.
Yeah.
But I had to learn to be okay. Let me deal with it. This is how it made me feel.
Yeah.
Because growing up, our feelings wasn't important.
Yeah, true.
So I made that to me, my feelings wasn't important. And my wife hated it because she'd be like, well, why you gonna say nothing? It's okay, because they're gonna be them. Let them do that. But now if you say something to her, it's something different. You're gonna see lions and tigers and bears. But me, I don't care. All right. It'll hurt my feelings. I may talk about it a few times until I get it off my chest and I move on.
Yeah.
But no, it's oh God, I got like 100,000 different
scenarios.
Even with my mom. The relationships. It was like, I see it different now, but I didn't see it then. And then I was hurt. I was mad. I was this, I was that. I didn't want to talk to her. But now I'm like, you know what? Okay, I get it. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you? Like, so.
So one of the things that come to mind, a couple things, but the one I think that is more valuable, I was in a relationship some years ago. All right, we were both in our 20s, and I knew that I was
It's
not
always a girl. It's
right.
always
I knew I was not gonna marry this girl. I knew it wasn't gonna be anything more than what it was, but I stayed longer than what I needed to.
right.
And during that, there were some things that that happened in the relationship that I didn't realize I was so traumatized. I was
Mhm.
so I didn't realize that I would
Mm.
swallow so many things that I didn't have to. Right.
Right.
There was a portion of me that certainly was unhealed or not in a good space, uh in terms of how I felt about myself, for me to be able to tolerate that for as long as I did.
Hmm.
And like you said, it wasn't until afterwards or for some time afterwards where you're unpacking those things and realizing, like, man, and in this day and age, or at this point in my life, there's no way I would have swallowed half the things this young lady tried to
Man.
feed to me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, it never would have gone down the way that it did.
Right.
And so we have to, one, forgive ourselves, right? So when
Oh,
we're
that's
in
so
the midst
big. Right.
of that mess, we don't see all the wrong things and all the things that are so damaging and so bad, right? Until we're out of it, we assess the situation, we say, peeling back that onion again, and realizing, like, there's some parts of me that I really need to pay attention to, right? And
Mm.
so maybe those things, that again, that was necessary for me, because had those things not happened the way that they did, I may not have addressed the things that I needed to address
Hmm.
about me, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in doing so, there was some healing that needed to come out of that. There was some forgiveness from myself, and that I owed to her, right? I couldn't
Right.
give it to her right away. It wasn't gonna happen. It just wasn't
Mm.
gonna happen.
You're right.
But I had to find a time where, once I was healed, that I could go back and revisit that situation or that
Hmm.
person and say, you know what, some things happened, while we were together. I had to forgive myself. I had to understand my position that I played in that relationship, and I need to apologize to you for the things that I did.
Right.
And when
That's
I said
big.
that to her, she said to me, she said, well, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I need to apologize to you, because obviously at that point she had done her work that she needed to
Hmm.
do. And so we were, or I should say now, full circle, we're at a place where we could be cordial to one another and be friendly. And I'm
Right.
thankful and blessed for that. But again, in the midst of that mess, we ain't thinking about that. We just trying to figure out how to get out of it. Right.
Right.
And we're
Right.
trying to figure out, even maybe to some degree, how we even get here. I have said that to myself many a times. How did I get in this kind of relationship? Like, why am I here? Like,
Right. Right.
but obviously, it was something in that time
Hmm.
or that moment I needed to learn, and that was
Mm.
my teacher. That was person needed to teach me those things.
Jeez.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
That's good. I love the fact that you brought up forgive yourself, because we don't
yeah,
do that. We
yeah.
don't give ourselves that grace to say, you messed up.
Yeah,
Shoot.
yeah.
And it's
Another
okay.
another key point. I watched a podcast with Jada Pinkett Smith a while back, and
Hmm.
one thing she said, that her and Pac were upset before he died. And they were so upset
Mm.
about, she doesn't even remember what it was. And I'm paraphrasing here, right? So you guys can go back and, if I think about it, I'll post the podcast under here. But she had to, once he, passed, once he died, she had to forgive herself, because whatever they were fighting about, she could have been a bigger person to go to him and say, hey, this ain't worth it, you know. But it
Right.
wasn't until after that that she had to learn the lesson that it's not worth, if I was able to be in that hospital room on his deathbed, and we was able to mend
Mm.
our fences, I would have been okay with him going, knowing that I loved him, right? and
Right.
and that
Right.
we're okay. And she didn't have
Right.
that opportunity. And so now going forward, she always says, is this worth, if one of us was on our deathbed, is this
Mm.
something that is going to hinder me or prevent me from moving forward. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how she makes her decisions. It's not, okay, fine, I can apologize. I can be the bigger person. I need to apologize to you for the way I treated you, whatever it is I said, whatever I didn't do, however I didn't show up, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that is, that's her defining moment. And that
Right.
was so
Oh man.
powerful for me. It's like, man,
It makes you look at it totally different. It makes you look, it
absolutely,
makes you think before you act.
absolutely. Because death is
Mm.
permanent. They will never have that conversation again. So she now has to carry that because she's the only person who can at this point. She has to
Right.
carry that because, again, they don't even know why she doesn't remember why they were fighting. But it wasn't that important. It could
Right.
not have been.
But now you're gonna have to take it with you.
Yeah. Man,
Wow.
that helped me so much.
That is good.
Yeah,
That
that
is
helped
so
me.
good.
That helped
That
me.
is good.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah.
This has been really thought provoking.
For sure, man. Listen, I think I was in some mess when we were talking a couple weeks ago, and we were, discussing what the topics was, and it escapes me now. But whatever I was in, I was like, why am I here again? And I remember
Right.
saying that to myself, and I can distinctly remember times or periods in my life that I've said that. Why am
Hmm.
I here again?
Right.
So yet again, there's still something that I need to learn, and even at this big age, at 50, for me, I'm 50. I'm still learning lessons. I'm still having
Right.
to visit things that are uncomfortable. I didn't want to call that woman and tell her I need to forgive you. Like, I didn't want to do that.
Right.
But it was so at that time, it was so heavy, man. It was difficult for me to move on to other relationships because this knucklehead kept, and all the
Hmm.
baggage and the things that I thought I had worked on wasn't necessarily clear.
Right.
And it was preventing me from making real, genuine connections with other people.
Right.
And so I had to release her. I had to release myself, forgive myself for tolerating and for putting her through the stuff that I put her through. I'm not
Right.
innocent in that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I took her through some stuff. But yeah, it just, yeah, that whole conversation, that podcast really helped me.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you worked through it.
Yeah, yeah. But listen, I know somebody else that's going to listen to this podcast and they're going through some mess, or they have found themselves at one point or another in some mess, and they're
Hmm.
trying to figure out, one, how they get out of it, where do they turn to, who can they ask for help, how can they solve this problem? Is this problem too big to solve?
Right.
All of those things. We've all had those questions.
Hmm.
um and why they're continuously going over through the same kinds of mess, right?
Hmm.
But you can get through it.
You
We will
can.
be okay. From this administration on the other side of it, we are going to be
We're
okay.
gonna be okay.
Yep.
You just got to hold
Absolutely.
on. You
Yeah,
got to
absolutely.
pivot, change, but you're gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no mess too small, too big for our Heavenly Father
Hmm.
to give it to him, and turn it over and allow him to take care of it.
Right.
Yeah,
To find that peace.
we don't always
What?
back off and let him do it,
Right.
because we are who we are.
Right.
But
You
yeah,
go wherever you feel safe.
yeah,
If you need to go and chant in Buddhism, go where you feel safe
yeah,
because you can't change what's in action now.
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you this, and I know we're about to close.
sure,
I can't think of what the scripture says, but there there was battles back then, especially the biblical battles, where the children of Israel didn't even have to fight. They allowed the enemy got confused and turned on each other. Let them eat each other up.
yeah,
You ain't even got to say no. Why we ain't got to march? Because the people that's going to go against each other is already in place.
yeah,
Let them eat each other up.
yeah,
I can't. I got my popcorn. I'm just gonna sit back and see what the color of the wall gonna be because I have faith and confidence that they're going to destroy each other.
yeah, yeah,
Because at first they was a pair, same thing. In the Bible, they was a pair. These countries was working against the children of God. And what happened? They confused the children of God, get them like, y'all, okay, we'll let y'all finish. They didn't have to do nothing.
Yeah.
Let these people do what they need to do. The only thing you can do is play on the one string that you have.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. That's been some good stuff, man. Good conversation.
Yeah, great.
Listen, we would ask that you please like, click, and share the content. I hope that tonight's conversation about being in the thick of your mess has helped you. If you need help, if you need coaching, please reach out to us. You can reach us on our websites. Joy has her website up. I have my email address up. Please reach out to us. We can help you navigate to a place to where you can get some answers and start getting a solution plan put in place. Okay.
Absolutely.
I think we both have lived enough life to be able to help people through this, and we can figure it out.
Right. Together.
Yeah. It takes a village.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep a regal mindset. We will see you all. Actually, next week is Pride. We forgot to mention. Listen, we out here in these
gay streets, and we ain't said we was gay.
Enjoy your Pride in your cities or nearby. Please be safe. Shoot us some content or some pictures. Tag Regal Mindset.
Right.
We would love to see what it is and how you are enjoying your Pride. We love you always, and we will see you soon.